Millionaire CEO took the gardener's daughter to a charity auction. What she did made everyone's jaw drop. Hello, viewer. Thanks for joining us. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments, along with the city you're watching from. Now let's continue with the story. Elena Martinez thought she knew her place in the world. The gardener's daughter who paid for college by conducting online auctions, invisible to the wealthy family whose estate her father had tended for 15 years. But when a medical emergency threatens to destroy a $2 million charity event, Elena steps into the spotlight with knowledge no one suspected she possessed. Her voice commands attention. Her expertise transforms skeptics into believers. Her courage turns potential disaster into unprecedented triumph. In one extraordinary evening, the woman they overlooked becomes the woman they cannot ignore. Marshall Croft thought he understood success, thought he recognized talent, thought he knew what mattered. He was wrong about everything that truly counted. Sometimes the most remarkable people are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone brave enough to see them clearly. And sometimes recognizing true worth changes everything for everyone involved. The bidding strategy needs to account for donor psychology, not just piece valuation. Elena Martinez said into her phone, switching effortlessly between English and Spanish as she paced her father's small apartment. Remember, these collectors respond to emotional connection, not just market analysis. Marshall Croft stopped dead in his tracks outside the estate's garden shed, his afternoon inspection of the charity auction preparations forgotten. For 15 years, he had known Elena as Roberto's polite daughter who occasionally visited during school breaks. The quiet young woman who always greeted him respectfully but never lingered for conversation. This confident professional voice belonged to someone entirely different. The 1892 Waterford Crystal Collection will generate competitive bidding if we emphasize its provenance, Elena continued, unaware of her audience. But the contemporary sculptures need narrative context. People buy stories, not just objects. Marshall found himself genuinely curious for the first time in months. His social circle consisted entirely of people whose conversations he could predict before they opened their mouths. Yet here was someone discussing auction strategy with the sophistication of a seasoned professional. Someone who had been practically invisible to him despite years of proximity. Elena ended her call and turned toward the garden, nearly colliding with Marshall's tall frame. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment as she realized he had been listening. "Mr. Croft," she said, immediately reverting to the formal tone she had always used with him. "I apologize. I did not realize you were there." "Please, do not apologize," Marshall replied, his blue eyes showing genuine interest rather than polite dismissal. "I could not help but overhear you were discussing auction strategies with remarkable expertise." Elena shifted uncomfortably, clutching her phone. Her father had always taught her to be respectful but unobtrusive around the Croft family. This level of attention felt dangerous somehow, as if she were crossing invisible boundaries that had kept their worlds separate for so long. "I work part-time for Heritage Auctions online," she explained cautiously. "It helps pay for university expenses." Marshall's eyebrows rose with surprise. He had never bothered to inquire about Elena's life beyond her role as Roberto's daughter. The realization made him uncomfortable in a way he could not quite identify. "How long have you been working in auctions?" he asked, his tone carrying none of the condescension she might have expected from someone of his position. 2.5 years, Elena answered, relaxing slightly at his respectful curiosity. "I started as a cataloging assistant, but they promoted me to conducting virtual sales. I've managed over 50 auctions, totaling approximately $800,000. The numbers hit Marshall like a revelation. This young woman, whom he had categorically dismissed as simply part of the household staff's extended family, had been building a professional career that rivaled many of his business associates' achievements. "That is genuinely impressive," Marshall said, and Elena could hear the authenticity in his voice. Virtual auctions require tremendous skill in reading buyer psychology without physical presence. Elena's surprise at his knowledgeable response was evident. Most people assume online sales are simple because they lack the theatrical element of traditional auctions. But you are correct. Understanding bidder behavior through digital interaction requires different techniques entirely. For the first time in their 15-year acquaintance, Marshall found himself wanting to continue a conversation with Elena rather than simply exchange pleasantries. Her passion for her work was evident, and her expertise clearly genuine. "I have been organizing charity auctions for 8 years," Marshall said, "but I always rely on established auctioneers like Charles Pemberton. I have never considered the strategic elements you mentioned regarding donor psychology and narrative context." Eleanor's eyes lit up with professional enthusiasm. Charity auctions present unique challenges because donors are motivated by both personal interest and philanthropic desire. The most successful events create emotional connection between the cause and the objects being sold. Marshall watched Eleanor's transformation as she discussed her work. Gone was the quiet, deferential young woman he thought he knew. In her place stood a confident professional whose insights could potentially revolutionize his approach to fundraising events. "Would you be interested in reviewing our upcoming auction catalog?" Marshall asked impulsively. "I would value your professional opinion on our lot organization and marketing strategy." Elena hesitated, uncertain whether this invitation represented genuine professional interest or mere politeness. Her father had always emphasized the importance of maintaining appropriate boundaries with the Croft family. "I would not want to overstep," Elena said carefully. "Your event is certainly more prestigious than anything I have handled through heritage auctions." "Expertise is expertise," Marshall replied firmly. "Scale does not diminish knowledge. If anything, your experience with diverse auction formats might provide insights that traditional high-end auctioneers overlook." Roberto Martinez emerged from the garden shed, his weathered hands still holding pruning shears. He had been working nearby and could not help but notice the extended conversation between his daughter and his employer's son. "Elena, you should not keep Mr. Croft from his important work," Roberto said gently, though his eyes showed curiosity about the discussion he had witnessed. "Actually, Roberto, Elena has been sharing valuable insights about auction management," Marshall said. "Her professional experience is quite remarkable." Roberto's chest swelled with quiet pride. He had always known his daughter was exceptional, but hearing her expertise acknowledged by Marshall Croft felt like validation of every sacrifice their family had made for Elena's education. "Elena has always been brilliant with numbers and people," Roberto said, his accent adding warmth to his words. "Even as a child, she could convince anyone to see value in things they had overlooked." Eleanor smiled at her father's words, feeling the familiar mixture of gratitude and determination that had driven her through years of balancing work and education. She had learned early that respect was earned through competence, not given through circumstance. "Perhaps you could join me for coffee tomorrow," Marshall suggested to Elena. "I would genuinely appreciate your thoughts on our auction approach. Your perspective might help us maximize our fundraising potential." Elena looked between Marshall and her father, seeing encouragement in Roberto's eyes, despite his earlier caution about maintaining boundaries. "I would be honored to help," Elena said finally. "Charitable causes deserve the most effective fundraising strategies possible." As Marshall walked away, Eleanor felt a strange mixture of excitement and uncertainty. For the first time, someone from Marshall's world had seen her as a professional rather than simply as part of the background of their privileged life. Roberto squeezed his daughter's shoulder gently. "Sometimes opportunities come from unexpected directions, Mija. Your talents have always been there." Perhaps it is time for others to see them clearly. Elena nodded, watching Marshall's retreating figure and wondering if this conversation might represent something more significant than a simple consultation request. She had spent years building her expertise in the shadows of her father's workplace, never imagining that her knowledge might someday matter to the people who lived in the main house. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the perfectly manicured grounds, but for Elena, everything suddenly felt brighter with possibility. Marshall Croft had never experienced such a complete disruption of his carefully planned schedule. 24 hours after his unexpected conversation with Elena Martinez, he found himself genuinely anticipating their coffee meeting with the enthusiasm typically reserved for major business acquisitions. His original companion for the annual Croft Foundation charity auction had cancelled that morning due to a family emergency, leaving Marshall with an evening that suddenly felt both professionally and personally hollow. The Pemberton auction is 3 weeks away, his assistant, Catherine, reminded him as she reviewed his calendar. Should I contact the usual suspects for a replacement companion? Marshall paused, considering the predictable roster of society women who attended such events out of obligation rather than genuine interest. The prospect of spending the evening making polite conversation about topics that bored him felt suddenly unbearable. Actually, Catherine, I may have a different solution in mind, Marshall said, his thoughts returning to Elena's passionate discussion of auction psychology and donor engagement. An hour later, Marshall found Elena waiting at the small cafe near the university campus E, her business administration textbooks stacked neatly beside her laptop. She had dressed professionally but modestly, clearly taking their meeting seriously despite its informal setting. Thank you for making time in your schedule, Marshall said, as he joined her at the corner table. I realize this request was somewhat unusual. Not at all, Elena replied, her nervousness evident but her professionalism intact. I spent yesterday evening reviewing your previous auction catalogues online. Your events have consistently raised impressive amounts for various charitable causes. Marshall was struck by her initiative. Most people in his social circle waited for information to be provided rather than conducting independent research. What did your analysis reveal? Marshall asked, genuinely curious about her professional assessment. Elena opened her laptop and displayed several spreadsheets with remarkable organization and detail. Your lot organization follows traditional patterns, which creates predictable bidding rhythms. However, there are opportunities to increase engagement through strategic storytelling and improve donor psychology management. For the next hour, Eleanor walked Marshall through her analysis with the confidence of someone who had spent years mastering her craft. She identified specific improvements in lot sequencing, marketing language, and bidder engagement techniques that could potentially increase fundraising by 20 to 30%. This level of analysis is extraordinary, Marshall said, reviewing her detailed recommendations. You have identified patterns that our established auctioneers never mentioned. Elena smiled modestly. Virtual auctions require different analytical approaches. When you cannot read physical body language, you must understand psychological triggers much more precisely. Marshall found himself genuinely impressed not just by Elena's expertise, but by her thoughtful approach to problems he had never fully considered. Her insights challenged assumptions he had held for years about charity auction management. Elena, I have an unusual request, Marshall said, his decision crystallizing as he spoke. My original companion for the auction has cancelled due to a family emergency. Would you consider attending as my guest? Elena's coffee cup paused halfway to her lips, her surprise evident. That is very generous, but I'm not certain I would be appropriate for such an event. Why not? Marshall asked, his tone genuinely curious rather than challenging. The guest list includes some of the most prominent people in the city, Elena said carefully. I do not have the social connections or appropriate attire for that level of event. Marshall considered her concerns with the seriousness they deserved. Elena's hesitation stemmed from practical realities, not false modesty or social anxiety. What if I told you that your professional expertise would be invaluable? Marshall said. I am genuinely interested in your perspective on how our actual auction compares to your theoretical analysis. Elena looked down at her laptop screen, her mind racing through the implications of such an invitation. Attending the Croft Foundation auction would provide incredible professional insight, but it would also represent a significant departure from the careful boundaries her family had maintained for 15 years. I appreciate the confidence you are showing in my abilities, Elena said slowly, but I want to be completely honest. I do not own anything appropriate for such a formal event. Marshall nodded thoughtfully. Would you allow me to address that concern? This invitation is professional as much as personal. I believe your insights could genuinely improve our future fundraising efforts. Elena studied Marshall's expression, searching for any hint of condescension or pity. Instead, she found what appeared to be sincere respect for her professional capabilities and genuine interest in her perspective. If you are certain my presence would be beneficial rather than awkward, Elena said finally, I would be honored to attend. Marshall smiled with what appeared to be genuine pleasure. Excellent. I will have Catherine coordinate the practical details. Your knowledge of auction dynamics will make the evening far more interesting than usual. As they parted ways, Elena felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety that kept her mind racing for hours. She had accepted an invitation that would place her in a world completely outside her previous experience, but for the first time, she would be there as a professional rather than as someone's daughter. That evening, Elena called her parents to share the news. Roberto's initial concern about appropriate boundaries gave way to pride when Elena explained the professional nature of Marshall's invitation. He respects your expertise, mija, Roberto said. That is something to be proud of, regardless of the social circumstances. Elena's mother, Maria, was more practical. What will you wear to such an event? Elena admitted she had no appropriate attire, but that Marshall had offered to address that concern professionally. This is an opportunity to show your talents, Maria said firmly. You have earned this through your own hard work and intelligence. Do not let fear prevent you from accepting recognition you deserve. As Elena prepared for bed, she reflected on how dramatically her life had shifted in just 2 days. A chance conversation had revealed her professional expertise to someone who could provide opportunities she had never imagined possible. For the first time, Elena Martinez was being seen not as the gardener's daughter, but as Elena Martinez, professional auction specialist. The change felt both terrifying and exhilarating. Elena Martinez stood before her closet at 6 in the morning, 3 weeks after accepting Marshall Croft's invitation, surrounded by clothing that suddenly seemed entirely inadequate for the evening ahead. The charity auction representing the pinnacle of the city's social calendar was 8 hours away, and she felt completely unprepared despite weeks of mental preparation. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Elena, this is Catherine, Mr. Croft's assistant. A package will arrive at 10 this morning to address your wardrobe concerns. Mr. Croft wants you to feel completely comfortable this evening. Elena stared at the message, uncertain whether to feel grateful or uncomfortable about such personal assistance. Her pride warred with practical necessity as she considered the gap between her current wardrobe and the expectations of an event where individual auction items cost more than her annual college expenses. Roberto knocked gently on her bedroom door. Elena, you seem troubled. Is everything acceptable with tonight's plans? Elena showed her father the text message, watching his expression shift through surprise, concern, and finally understanding. "This is professional assistance, not charity," Roberto said thoughtfully. "Mr. Croft invited you for your expertise. Ensuring you feel confident is simply good business practice." "But what if people think I am pretending to be something I am not?" Elena asked, voicing her deepest concern. Roberto sat on her bed with the weary wisdom of someone who had spent decades navigating the complex dynamics between different social worlds. "Mija, you are not pretending anything. You are Elena Martinez, the young woman who earned a 3.8 grade average while building a professional career that generates $45,000 annually. Your knowledge is genuine, your achievements are real, and your character is beyond question." Elena felt tears threatening as her father continued. "Tonight, you will not be representing our family as the gardener's daughter. You will be representing yourself as the accomplished professional you have become. There is nothing false about that." The package arrived precisely at 10 o'clock. Delivered by a personal shopping service Elena recognized from magazine advertisements. Inside, she found an elegant navy blue dress with classic lines that would complement rather than compete with her natural beauty, along with appropriate accessories chosen with remarkable attention to her coloring and build. Elena tried on the ensemble and was amazed at how perfectly everything fit. The dress was sophisticated without being ostentatious, expensive without being flashy, appropriate for someone attending as a professional consultant rather than as social arm candy. Her mother, Maria, arrived shortly after lunch to help with hair and makeup preparation. As she worked, Maria shared stories about her own experiences adapting to different social situations after immigrating to the United States. "Confidence comes from knowing your worth," Maria said as she arranged Elena's hair in an elegant updo. "You belong at this event because your expertise belongs there. Let your knowledge speak for itself." By 5 o'clock, Elena felt transformed, but authentic. The woman looking back from her mirror was recognizably herself, but elevated to meet the evening's requirements. She had studied the auction catalogue until she could discuss every lot with professional authority, her nervousness gradually replaced by genuine excitement about experiencing a major charity auction from the inside. Marshall arrived to collect her at 6:30, his expression showing unmistakable appreciation for her appearance. "You look absolutely perfect," he said, his tone carrying professional approval rather than personal flattery. "Elegant and authoritative, exactly right for this evening." Elena felt a flutter of something beyond professional satisfaction at his approval, but she maintained her focus on the evening's professional opportunities. "I have prepared detailed notes on each auction lot," Elena said, showing Marshall her leather portfolio. "My analysis suggests several pieces are significantly undervalued in your catalogue, which could create bidding opportunities if handled strategically." Marshall's smile was genuine as he helped her into his car. "This is exactly why your presence tonight will be invaluable. You approach these events from a completely different perspective than most attendees." During the drive to the downtown hotel hosting the auction, Elena felt her nervous energy transforming into professional excitement. She was attending not as a spectator, but as someone whose expertise could contribute meaningful value to the evening's success. "What should I expect from the other guests?" Elena asked, her practical mind focusing on navigation strategies for unfamiliar social territory. "They are generally good people who support important causes," Marshall replied thoughtfully. "Some will be curious about you because you are someone new. Others will be too focused on their own concerns to pay much attention. Most will be impressed if you demonstrate genuine knowledge about the auction items." Elena nodded, feeling her confidence solidify. She had built her professional reputation by proving her competence to skeptical clients. Tonight would simply extend that pattern to a new environment. As they approached the elegant hotel entrance, Eleanor caught sight of her reflection in the window and felt a moment of pride. The young woman looking back was professionally dressed, thoroughly prepared, and ready to represent her expertise with dignity. "Elena," Marshall said as they prepared to enter the venue, "I want you to know that inviting you tonight was not an act of charity or social experimentation. Your professional insights have already improved our auction strategy, and I genuinely value your perspective." Elena felt the last of her uncertainty dissolve. She was entering this evening not as someone's rescue project, but as Elena Martinez, professional auction specialist whose expertise could contribute genuine value to important charitable work. "Thank you for seeing my capabilities rather than my circumstances," Elena replied. "I promise to justify your confidence in my professional abilities." As they walked through the hotel's ornate entrance, Elena felt transformation completing itself. She was no longer the gardener's daughter attending by special dispensation. She was a qualified professional whose knowledge belonged in this room as much as anyone else's. The evening ahead suddenly felt full of possibility rather than anxiety. The grand ballroom of the Meridian Hotel sparkled with the kind of understated elegance that cost more than most people earned in a year. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables draped in ivory silk, while the auction items displayed around the room's perimeter drew admiring glances from guests who moved through the space with the confidence born of lifelong privilege. Elena Martinez entered this world on Marshall Croft's arm, her navy dress and elegant composure allowing her to blend seamlessly with women whose jewelry cost more than her university education. The transformation felt surreal, yet somehow completely natural. "The turnout is exceptional," Marshall murmured, as they surveyed the crowd of nearly 300 guests. "Charles Pemberton estimated we could raise $2 million tonight if bidding enthusiasm remains strong." Elena's trained eye immediately assessed the room's energy and crowd psychology. "The pre-auction atmosphere feels positive," she agreed. "People are engaged with the displayed pieces rather than simply socializing, which typically correlates with active bidding behavior." Marshall introduced Elena to several key donors and foundation board members, presenting her consistently as Elena Martinez, our auction strategy consultant. The title felt both accurate and empowering, establishing her presence on professional rather than social grounds. "Miss Martinez, how fascinating," said Patricia Whitman, a prominent arts patron. "What is your assessment of tonight's collection?" Elena felt her professional confidence engage as she replied, "The diversity is exceptional. The 19th century European paintings will attract traditional collectors, but I believe the contemporary sculpture pieces may generate surprising competition due to their rising market values." Patricia's eyebrows rose with genuine interest. "You speak with remarkable authority. Where did you develop your expertise?" "I specialize in virtual auctions for Heritage Auctions Online," Elena explained. "Digital sales require intensive analysis of buyer psychology and market dynamics. The principles translate effectively to traditional auction environments." As conversations continued throughout the cocktail hour, Elena found herself genuinely enjoying the intellectual stimulation of discussing art, market trends, and philanthropic strategy with people whose passion for these subjects matched her own professional enthusiasm. Marshall watched Elena's natural confidence with growing admiration. She neither deferred unnecessarily to social status nor attempted to prove herself through aggressive display of knowledge. Instead, she participated in conversations with the calm authority of someone comfortable with her own expertise. "Elena, what do you think of the Waterford Crystal Collection?" asked James Harrison, a longtime foundation supporter. Elena moved toward the display case with professional interest. The provenance documentation is exceptional, which adds significant value beyond the piece's intrinsic worth. The 1892 date places these in the peak period of Waterford's artistic achievement, before industrial production methods altered their manufacturing approach. James nodded approvingly. I had not considered the historical manufacturing context. That perspective could certainly influence bidding strategy. Exactly, Elena agreed. Collectors respond strongly to narratives that place objects within broader historical significance. These pieces represent not just beautiful craftsmanship, but a specific moment in Irish artistic heritage that can never be replicated. Marshall felt a surge of something beyond professional appreciation as he listened to Elena's effortless command of her subject matter. Her knowledge was both deep and accessible, her passion genuine rather than performed. "Ladies and gentlemen, if you would please take your seats," announced the evening's coordinator. "Our auction will begin in 10 minutes. Elena and Marshall found their assigned table near the front of the room, surrounded by major donors whose animated conversations about bidding strategies revealed their serious engagement with the evening's fundraising goals. "I must admit," Marshall said quietly as they settled into their seats, "you have exceeded every expectation I had for this evening. Your expertise has impressed everyone you have spoken with." Elena smiled with quiet satisfaction. "This environment feels surprisingly natural. The people here share genuine passion for art and philanthropy, which creates common ground, regardless of social backgrounds." Marshall nodded, realizing that Elena's success tonight stemmed not from pretending to be someone else, but from being authentically herself in circumstances that finally allowed her expertise to shine. "Elena, I want you to know that whatever happens with the auction itself, tonight has already been valuable," Marshall said sincerely. "Your insights about donor psychology and market dynamics will improve every future fundraising event we organize." Elena felt warmth spreading through her chest at his words. For the first time in her life, she was being valued not for her potential or her effort, but for her actual professional competence by someone whose opinion genuinely mattered to her. "Thank you for creating this opportunity," Elena replied. "Regardless of how the evening concludes, being recognized as a professional rather than simply as someone's daughter feels like validation of everything I have worked toward." Charles Pemberton, the evening's auctioneer, took the stage with the commanding presence that had made him legendary in charity auction circles. At 67 years old, he had conducted more high-stakes auctions than anyone in the region, his reputation for extracting maximum donations from wealthy bidders unmatched in philanthropic fundraising. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Croft Foundation's annual charity auction," Pemberton began, his rich voice carrying easily through the ballroom's sound system. "Tonight, your generosity will support education initiatives that transform young lives through art and scholarship programs." Eleanor leaned forward with professional interest, eager to observe Pemberton's legendary techniques in person. This represented the culmination of weeks of preparation and months of anticipation. The evening ahead promised to be educational, inspiring, and potentially transformative in ways she was only beginning to understand. Charles Pemberton commanded the auction podium with the confidence of a man who had raised over $50 million for charitable causes throughout his distinguished career. His silver hair gleamed under the ballroom lights as he gestured toward the first auction lot, a delicate 19th-century watercolor landscape. "Our opening piece this evening is a charming work by Edmund Morrison, whose pastoral scenes captured the essence of rural England during the 1860s, Pemberton announced, his practiced voice carrying the perfect blend of authority and enthusiasm. Elena watched with professional fascination as bidding began at $2,000 and quickly escalated to $8,000. Pemberton's technique was masterful, encouraging competition through strategic pauses and subtle psychological pressure that kept multiple bidders engaged without seeming aggressive. "Remarkable crowd management," Elena whispered to Marshall. "He maintains enthusiasm without creating bidder fatigue that could affect later lots." Marshall nodded, finding Elena's running professional commentary far more engaging than his usual auction experience of passive observation. Her insights revealed layers of strategy he had never previously recognized. The first hour proceeded flawlessly. Pemberton expertly navigated through smaller pieces, building momentum and establishing the evening's competitive atmosphere. Total proceeds climbed steadily toward $500,000, well ahead of typical pacing for achieving their $2 million goal. Elena noticed subtle details in bidder behavior that seemed to escape even Pemberton's experienced attention. "The woman in the red dress has been tracking the contemporary sculpture pieces specifically," she murmured. "Her focus suggests she may bid aggressively when those lots appear." "How can you determine that from across the room?" Marshall asked, impressed by Elena's observational skills. "Body language patterns during the preview hour," Elena explained. She spent significant time examining those pieces while largely ignoring traditional paintings and decorative arts. Virtual auctions require reading behavioral cues without physical proximity, so I developed enhanced observation techniques. Marshall found himself marveling at Elena's analytical approach to crowd psychology. Her expertise transformed the auction from entertainment into a fascinating study of human behavior and strategic decision-making. As the evening progressed through increasingly valuable lots, Pemberton's energy remained strong and his command of the room absolute. The Waterford crystal collection Elena had discussed earlier generated intense bidding that exceeded catalogue estimates by 40%. Validating her analysis of its market appeal. "Ladies and gentlemen, we now approach our evening's major lots," Pemberton announced, as servers began clearing dinner courses. "These exceptional pieces represent the heart of tonight's fundraising effort for educational initiatives that change young lives forever." Eleanor felt anticipation building as they reached the auction's climax. The remaining 20 lots included pieces valued between $10,000 and $75,000 each, requiring masterful psychological management to extract maximum charitable donations from increasingly selective bidders. Pemberton gestured toward an impressive bronze sculpture, his voice taking on additional gravitas. This magnificent work by contemporary artist Sarah Chen represents not merely artistic achievement, but passionate commitment to social justice through creative expression. As Pemberton launched into his prepared remarks about the sculpture's significance, Elena noticed his pause lasted slightly longer than his previous rhythm. Something subtle had changed in his delivery, though most audience members seemed unaware of any difference. "Bidding will commence at $15,000 for this extraordinary piece that combines artistic merit with powerful social commentary," Pemberton continued, but Elena detected a slight tremor in his usually rock-steady voice. Marshall leaned forward with concern as Pemberton gripped the podium more tightly than necessary. The veteran auctioneer's face had developed a slight pallor that contrasted sharply with his earlier commanding presence. Eleanor felt alarm bells ringing in her professional consciousness. Something was definitely wrong with Pemberton's performance, though he was clearly attempting to maintain his composure and continue the auction. "Do I hear $15,000? Pemberton asked, his voice slightly strained, despite his obvious effort to project normalcy. Several hands raised around the room, but Elena noticed Pemberton's coordination seemed slightly off as he attempted to acknowledge bidders. His legendary smooth rhythm was beginning to falter in ways that suggested genuine physical distress rather than simple fatigue. Marshall exchanged worried glances with Elena as Pemberton swayed almost imperceptibly behind the podium. The man who had commanded the room with absolute authority for 90 minutes was clearly experiencing some form of medical emergency. "Ladies and gentlemen," Pemberton began, then stopped abruptly, his hand moving to his chest as his face went pale. The microphone caught his labored breathing as he struggled to maintain his professional composure. Elena felt her heart racing as she realized the evening's success hung in the balance. 300 guests sat in expectant silence, while their auctioneer fought to continue performing, despite obvious physical distress. "Marshall," Elena whispered urgently, "something is seriously wrong with Mr. Pemberton." Before Marshall could respond, Pemberton's knees buckled slightly. He caught himself against the podium, but his distress was now visible to everyone in the ballroom. Concerned murmurs rippled through the audience as guests realized their evening's entertainment had transformed into a genuine medical emergency. I apologize," Pemberton managed into the microphone, his professional mask finally slipping as he acknowledged his inability to continue. "I seem to be experiencing some difficulty." Elena watched in horror as Charles Pemberton, the man whose expertise was supposed to guide the evening to its $2 million goal, collapsed behind the podium while $900,000 in charitable fundraising hung in the balance. The ballroom erupted in concerned voices as hotel staff and several guests with medical training rushed toward the stage. Elena felt her professional instincts engaging, even as her personal concern for Pemberton's well-being overwhelmed her thoughts. Marshall sat frozen in his chair, watching 15 years of careful foundation building potentially crumbling as their star auctioneer was helped from the stage by paramedics who had been summoned with impressive speed. Elena gripped Marshall's hand tightly, feeling the weight of 300 disappointed guests and nearly $1 million in unfinished charitable business pressing down on everyone in the room. Paramedics worked efficiently around Charles Pemberton as concerned murmurs filled the grand ballroom. Elena watched Marshall's face transform from shock to growing panic as the reality of their situation became undeniable. $900,000 had been raised, but over $1 million in major auction lots remained unsold, representing the difference between success and devastating failure for the evening's charitable goals. "Ladies and gentlemen," announced the hotel's event coordinator, her voice strained with professional composure, "we are temporarily suspending the auction while Mr. Pemberton receives medical attention. Please remain in your seats while we assess the situation." Elena felt her analytical mind engaging despite the emotional chaos surrounding Pemberton's collapse. 300 guests sat in uncomfortable silence, their enthusiasm for charitable giving rapidly evaporating as uncertainty replaced the evening's previous momentum. Without immediate action, the auction's psychological energy would dissipate completely, making successful resumption nearly impossible. Marshall turned to Elena with desperate eyes. 15 years of foundation building, Elena. Every major donor in the city is here tonight. If we cannot complete this auction, our reputation and future fundraising capability will be seriously damaged. Elena studied the abandoned podium where Pemberton's notes and auction materials waited for an auctioneer who could no longer return. Her mind raced through the implications of complete auction failure versus the terrifying prospect of attempting to salvage the evening herself. "Marshall," Elena said quietly, her voice steady despite her racing heartbeat, "I can finish this auction." Marshall stared at Elena as if she had suggested flying to the moon. "Elena, this is not a virtual sale with anonymous bidders." These are 300 of the city's most prominent citizens expecting professional expertise from someone they recognize and trust. I have conducted over 50 auctions, Elena replied, her professional confidence overriding her personal fears. I know every remaining lot in your catalogue because I studied them extensively when you first invited me. The techniques are identical, regardless of venue size or audience prestige. Elena stood and moved toward the stage before Marshall could object further. Her navy dress and confident bearing allowed her to approach the podium without appearing to intrude on the medical emergency still unfolding nearby. The hotel coordinator intercepted Elena's path. "Miss, I need to ask you to return to your seat while we determine how to proceed. I am Elena Martinez, the evening's auction strategy consultant," Elena replied with calm authority. "I can complete the remaining lots if Mr. Croft approves." Marshall appeared at Elena's side, his desperation warring with doubt about the wisdom of such an unprecedented solution. "Are you absolutely certain you can handle this level of pressure?" Elena looked out at the sea of expectant faces, many showing impatience and disappointment that threatened to end their charitable mood entirely. Every instinct told her this was an enormous risk, but her professional analysis suggested immediate action was their only hope of salvaging the evening. "Marshall, I have managed virtual auctions with similar dollar values and comparable psychological pressure," Elena said firmly. "These people came here to support your foundation's educational mission. If we act quickly, we can preserve their enthusiasm and complete our fundraising goals." Marshall studied Elena's expression, searching for any hint of false bravado that might indicate she was overestimating her capabilities. Instead, he found the same professional confidence she had displayed throughout their weeks of collaboration. "If you truly believe you can do this," Marshall said slowly, "then I trust your professional judgment completely." Elena felt a surge of gratitude for Marshall's faith in her abilities, followed immediately by the weight of enormous responsibility. She was about to attempt something that could either validate her expertise dramatically or humiliate her publicly in front of 300 prominent citizens. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elena said as she approached the microphone, her voice carrying clearly through the ballroom's sound system, "I am Elena Martinez, this evening's auction strategy consultant. With your permission, I would like to complete our remaining lots so that Charles Pemberton's excellent work tonight can achieve its full charitable impact." Elena paused, allowing the audience to absorb this unexpected development. Several guests exchanged curious glances, while others appeared skeptical about this young woman's ability to replace a legendary auctioneer. "Before we continue," Elena said, her voice gaining strength and authority, "I want to share why tonight's remaining lots deserve your serious consideration. Each piece represents not just artistic achievement, but commitment to the educational mission that brings us together this evening." Elena gestured toward the bronze sculpture that had been interrupted by Pemberton's collapse. This remarkable work by Sarah Chen tells the story of an artist who donated 90% of her career profits to educational initiatives for underserved communities. When you bid on this piece, you continue her legacy of using artistic success to create opportunities for young people who dream of following similar paths. Elena's voice carried the perfect blend of respect for the art and passion for the charitable cause. Her natural storytelling ability, honed through years of virtual auction work, began weaving emotional connections between the objects and their philanthropic purpose. "The current bid stands at $15,000, Elena continued, consulting Pemberton's notes with professional ease. "Do I hear 18,000 for this extraordinary piece that represents both artistic excellence and educational commitment?" 3 hands rose immediately around the room. Elena felt a surge of relief as she realized her gamble was working. The audience was responding to her expertise and enthusiasm rather than rejecting her presumptuous attempt to replace their expected auctioneer. "I have $18,000, Elena announced, her confidence growing with each successful bid acknowledgement. This sculpture's market value has increased 40% in the past 2 years, making $21,000 an excellent investment in both artistic merit and charitable impact." Elena's natural auction rhythm began asserting itself as she found her professional groove. The techniques that had made her successful in virtual sales translated perfectly to live auction management, while her genuine passion for the charitable cause added emotional depth that purely commercial auctioneers often lacked. Marshall watched from his table with growing amazement as Elena transformed potential disaster into triumph through sheer professional competence and authentic enthusiasm for their shared mission. The evening's salvation had arrived in the most unexpected form imaginable. Elena Martinez commanded the auction podium with a natural authority that transformed the evening's potential disaster into extraordinary triumph. Her voice carried the perfect blend of professional expertise and genuine passion for the charitable cause, as she guided bidding through the remaining 23 lots with masterful precision. "The bronze sculpture by Sarah Chen has reached $28,000, Elena announced, her confidence growing with each successful exchange. "This piece represents more than artistic achievement. It embodies the educational mission we celebrate tonight. Do I hear 30,000 for this remarkable work that will continue inspiring young artists for generations?" 4 hands rose immediately around the ballroom. Elena felt the audience's energy building as her storytelling ability connected each piece to the evening's philanthropic purpose. Gone was the uncertainty that had followed Charles Pemberton's collapse. In its place, Elena had created renewed enthusiasm that surpassed even the legendary auctioneer's earlier momentum. Marshall watched from his table with growing amazement as Elena exceeded every expectation he had harbored about her capabilities. Her transformation from nervous dinner companion to commanding professional represented the most remarkable demonstration of hidden talent he had ever witnessed. "Sold for $35,000, Elena declared as the Chen sculpture found its new home. "Your generosity ensures that Sarah Chen's legacy of supporting educational opportunities will continue through our scholarship programs." Elena moved seamlessly to the next lot, a collection of rare books that she introduced with scholarly enthusiasm. These first-edition volumes represent knowledge preserved across centuries, much like the educational foundation we build together tonight. Their wisdom has shaped countless minds, just as your contributions will shape countless futures. The rare books generated competitive bidding that reached $42,000, well above their catalog estimate. Elena's ability to weave philanthropic purpose into artistic appreciation was proving more effective than traditional auction techniques focused solely on market value and prestige. As the evening progressed through increasingly valuable lots, Elena's professional rhythm became hypnotic. She read crowd psychology with intuitive precision, encouraging competition without creating bidder fatigue, building momentum that carried each lot beyond its estimated value. "Ladies and gentlemen, we now approach our final and most significant piece," Elena announced as the evening reached its crescendo. This extraordinary painting by Marcus Whitfield represents not just artistic mastery, but the transformative power of education itself. Elena gestured toward the magnificent landscape that dominated the stage. Marcus Whitfield was a scholarship recipient who used his educational opportunities to become one of America's most celebrated contemporary artists. His success story embodies everything we hope to achieve through tonight's generous support of educational initiatives. The bidding for Whitfield's painting opened at $50,000 and quickly escalated as Elena's compelling narrative connected the artwork directly to the evening's charitable mission. Her natural storytelling ability had transformed a simple sale into an emotional investment in educational transformation. "I have $75,000, Elena announced, her voice carrying perfect authority despite the enormous sums involved. "This painting represents proof that educational opportunity can transform talent into lasting legacy. Do I hear 80,000 for this incredible investment in artistic achievement and educational mission?" Elena's eyes met Marshall's across the ballroom as bidding continued climbing towards six figures. The pride and admiration in his expression gave her strength as she guided the evening's most important lot toward its conclusion. "Sold for $95,000, Elena declared to enthusiastic applause. "Your extraordinary generosity has made tonight's total fundraising amount to $3,800,000, nearly double our original goal." The ballroom erupted in sustained applause as Elena's remarkable achievement became clear. She had not merely completed Charles Pemberton's interrupted auction, she had transformed potential disaster into the most successful fundraising event in Croft Foundation history. Elena stepped away from the podium with quiet dignity, her professional triumph complete, but her personal amazement at what she had accomplished still processing. The young woman who had entered the evening as Marshall's nervous dinner companion was concluding it as a proven fundraising expert whose abilities had impressed 300 prominent citizens. Marshall reached Elena's side as she descended from the stage, his expression showing wonder and genuine admiration. "Elena, what you accomplished tonight was absolutely extraordinary. You saved our event and exceeded every fundraising goal we dared establish." Elena felt tears threatening as the emotional weight of her achievement settled over her. She had proven herself on the most challenging stage imaginable, demonstrating that her expertise belonged in any professional environment regardless of her social background. "I cannot believe it actually worked," Elena admitted, her voice shaking slightly with delayed reaction to the enormous pressure she had just navigated successfully. "When I offered to help, I was terrified but certain that attempting something was better than accepting failure." Roberto Martinez appeared at Elena's other side, his weathered face glowing with pride that transcended any language barrier. He had watched his daughter command a room full of prominent citizens with the same natural authority she had displayed since childhood when explaining her school projects or defending her younger cousins. "Mija, you were magnificent," Roberto said, his accent thick with emotion. "Every person in this room now understands what your mother and I have always known, that you are extraordinary." Elena embraced her father, feeling the circle of her achievement complete. She had honored her family's values while proving that talent and hard work could overcome any social barrier when given appropriate opportunity and recognition. Marshall watched the father-daughter reunion with growing understanding of Elena's remarkable character. Her success tonight had emerged not from desperation or lucky accident, but from years of dedicated professional development combined with genuine passion for meaningful work. "Elena," Marshall said when she turned back toward him, "I have a proposition that I hope you will consider carefully. The Croft Foundation needs someone with your expertise and passion to help develop our fundraising strategies on a permanent basis." Elena's eyes widened with surprise and possibility. "Are you offering me a position with the foundation?" "I am offering you the opportunity to transform how we approach charitable fundraising," Marshall replied. "What you accomplished tonight proves that you possess rare talents that could revolutionize our impact on educational initiatives throughout the region." Elena felt her heart racing as she contemplated this unexpected development. A permanent position with the Croft Foundation would represent professional advancement beyond anything she had imagined possible when she first started conducting virtual auctions to pay for college expenses. "I would need to complete my university degree," Elena said thoughtfully, "and maintain my work with heritage auctions until I finish my business administration program." "Of course," Marshall agreed immediately. "We would structure everything around your educational priorities. Your degree completion is essential for your long-term professional development." Elena looked between Marshall and her father, seeing encouragement and pride in both their expressions. The opportunity represented validation of everything she had worked toward throughout her years of balancing education with professional development. "May I have time to consider your offer?" Elena asked, her practical mind already analyzing the implications and opportunities such a position might provide. "Absolutely," Marshall replied. "This decision deserves careful thought. But Elena, I want you to understand that tonight changed everything. Your expertise belongs in philanthropic work, and our foundation would be honored to provide the platform for your talents." As the evening's guests began departing, many stopped to congratulate Elena on her remarkable performance. Their genuine admiration and respect proved that she had earned recognition based purely on professional competence, rather than social charity or romantic connection. Elena Martinez had entered the Meridian Hotel as the gardener's daughter, attending by special invitation. She was concluding the evening as a proven fundraising expert whose abilities had impressed everyone who witnessed her extraordinary achievement. The transformation felt both surreal and completely natural, as if she had finally found the professional environment where her talents could flourish without limitation or apology. 3 weeks after the auction triumph that had established Elena Martinez as the most promising young fundraiser in the city's philanthropic community, she sat across from Marshall Croft in the elegant conference room where the Croft Foundation conducted its strategic planning sessions. The morning sun streamed through tall windows, casting warm light over the polished mahogany table where Elena's future was being carefully considered. "The position we are discussing would be Assistant Director of Development," Marshall explained, sliding a detailed job description across the table. "Your responsibilities would include auction strategy, donor relations, and educational program development. The starting salary is $65,000 annually, with comprehensive benefits and professional development opportunities." Elena studied the document with the careful attention she applied to all important decisions. The position represented a 45% increase over her current income from heritage auctions, along with the opportunity to focus entirely on charitable work that aligned with her deepest values about education and opportunity. "The role would allow you to complete your degree through evening and weekend classes," Marshall continued. "We understand that your education remains your highest priority, and we want to support rather than complicate your academic goals." Elena felt excitement building as she considered the professional opportunities such a position would provide. Working directly with the Croft Foundation would expose her to major donors, strategic philanthropic planning, and educational initiatives that could impact thousands of young people seeking opportunities similar to those she had pursued. "What would be your expectations regarding my continued work with heritage auctions?" Elena asked, her mind already analyzing how to balance multiple professional commitments responsibly. "We would prefer that you maintain that relationship," Marshall replied thoughtfully. "Your virtual auction expertise gives you perspectives that traditional fundraisers often lack. That diversity of experience makes you more valuable, not less focused." Elena nodded appreciatively. Marshall's understanding of how different professional experiences could complement rather than compete with each other demonstrated sophisticated thinking about career development that impressed her deeply. May I discuss this opportunity with my family before providing my final answer? Elena requested, knowing that such a significant decision deserved input from the people who had supported her educational and professional journey. Absolutely, Marshall agreed. Family consultation shows wisdom, not indecision. Take whatever time you need to make the choice that feels right for your long-term goals. That evening, Elena sat around the small dining table in her family's apartment, sharing Marshall's offer with her parents over Maria's homemade enchiladas. The modest surroundings felt warm and secure as Elena explained the professional opportunity that could transform her career trajectory. $65,000 annually, Roberto repeated, his voice showing amazement at the figure that represented more than double his own income after 15 years of dedicated service. Elena, this is recognition of your true worth. Maria nodded thoughtfully, her practical mind already analyzing the implications. This position would provide security while allowing you to help other young people achieve their educational dreams. It sounds like work that would fulfill your heart as well as support your future. Elena felt gratitude washing over her as she considered her parents' enthusiastic support. They understood that her success represented validation of their sacrifices and proof that their investment in her education had created opportunities beyond anything their immigrant experience had initially seemed to promise. There is something else I want to discuss, Elena said carefully. Marshall has been different since the auction, more personal in his conversations, more interested in my thoughts about topics beyond work. I think he may be developing feelings that go beyond professional respect. Roberto and Maria exchanged knowing glances. They had observed Marshall's increased attention to Elena with the wisdom of parents who recognized romantic interest even when their daughter remained focused primarily on professional advancement. How do you feel about Mr. Croft? Maria asked gently, as a person, not as your potential employer. Elena considered the question that she had been avoiding for weeks. Marshall's genuine respect for her expertise, his thoughtful consideration of her needs, and his obvious admiration for her character had created feelings she was reluctant to examine too closely while navigating important career decisions. I respect him enormously, Elena admitted. He saw my capabilities when others overlooked them. He created opportunities based on merit rather than charity, and he treats me as an equal rather than someone he rescued from difficult circumstances. Those are excellent foundations for any relationship, Roberto observed. But Elena, you must be careful not to confuse gratitude with deeper feelings or professional respect with romantic compatibility. Elena nodded, appreciating her father's wisdom. I want to establish myself professionally before exploring any personal relationship. If Marshall's feelings are genuine, they will survive my need to prove myself independently first. Maria smiled at her daughter's mature approach to balancing professional and personal development. You have always been wise about understanding your own needs, Mija. Trust your instincts about timing and priorities. Elena felt clarity settling over her as her family's support reinforced her own professional instincts. Accepting Marshall's job offer would advance her career while maintaining appropriate boundaries that would allow any personal relationship to develop naturally rather than being complicated by professional dependency. I will accept the foundation position, Elena decided. And I will be completely honest with Marshall about keeping our relationship professional until I establish myself in the role independently. Roberto reached across the table to squeeze Elena's hand. You continue to make choices that honor both your talents and your character. Whatever happens with work or romance, your mother and I are proud of the woman you have become. Elena felt tears threatening as she absorbed her father's words. She had achieved professional recognition while maintaining the values and humility that her parents had instilled throughout her childhood. Success had not changed her essential character, but rather provided appropriate outlet for her authentic capabilities. The next morning, Elena called Marshall to accept the assistant director position with the Croft Foundation. Her voice carried confidence and gratitude as she committed to work that would allow her talents to flourish while contributing to educational opportunities for other young people seeking advancement through merit and determination. "Elena, I am delighted that you have decided to join our team," Marshall said, his pleasure evident even through the phone. "Your expertise and passion will transform our approach to philanthropic fundraising." Elena felt excitement building as she contemplated the professional challenges and opportunities ahead. She was embarking on career advancement that honored her expertise while serving causes that reflected her deepest values about education, opportunity, and the transformative power of recognizing hidden talent wherever it might be discovered. Her journey from virtual auction specialist to foundation development professional represented authentic growth based on proven competence rather than social charity or romantic rescue. The distinction filled her with pride and determination to justify Marshall's confidence through exceptional professional performance. Elena Martinez arrived at the Croft Foundation headquarters on a crisp October morning, 6 weeks into her new role as Assistant Director of Development. The elegant brownstone building that housed the Foundation's offices had become as familiar as her childhood home. Yet she still felt a thrill of professional pride each time she climbed the marble steps leading to work that fulfilled both her expertise and her values. The autumn air carried the scent of changing leaves as Elena balanced her laptop bag and a steaming cup of coffee, navigating the early morning routine that had become precious to her. She cherished these quiet moments before the office filled with colleagues, when she could review donor correspondence and auction strategies without interruption. Marshall Croft's car pulled up to the curb just as Elena reached the building's entrance. Over the past month and a half, their morning arrivals had often coincided, creating natural opportunities for the kind of professional conversation that had evolved into something approaching genuine friendship. "Good morning, Elena," Marshall said as he joined her on the front steps. "You are here early again. Do you ever allow yourself to sleep past 6 o'clock? Elena laughed, a sound that had become more frequent and relaxed since she had begun working directly with Marshall on foundation strategy, old habits from balancing university classes with auction work. "I discovered that early morning hours provide the clearest thinking time for complex project planning." Marshall held the door open for Elena, a gesture that felt respectful rather than patronizing. Their professional relationship had developed into comfortable collaboration, marked by mutual respect and increasingly personal conversation that neither of them had explicitly acknowledged or defined. "I reviewed your analysis of the Hartford Museum partnership proposal," Marshall said as they climbed the stairs toward their offices. "Your insights about combining educational programming with fundraising events could revolutionize how we approach institutional collaboration." Elena felt warmth spreading through her chest at Marshall's praise. His recognition of her strategic thinking had become important to her in ways that extended beyond simple professional validation. She found herself looking forward to their conversations with anticipation that felt both professional and personal. The museum partnership represents exactly the kind of innovative approach that could expand our educational impact, Elena replied, her enthusiasm evident as they reached the second-floor landing. Traditional fundraising events serve their purpose, but combining them with actual educational programming creates lasting value beyond immediate financial benefit. Marshall paused at Elena's office door, clearly reluctant to end their conversation despite the busy day awaiting both of them. These morning exchanges had become highlights of his routine, providing intellectual stimulation and personal connection that his previous professional relationships had lacked entirely. "Would you be interested in discussing the museum proposal further over dinner?" Marshall asked, his tone attempting to maintain professional neutrality despite the personal invitation implicit in his suggestion. "I think your ideas deserve more detailed exploration than our usual office conversations allow." Elena felt her heart rate quickening as she recognized the careful boundary Marshall was navigating between professional collaboration and personal interest. Over the past 6 weeks, she had become increasingly aware of the attraction developing between them, though both had maintained appropriate professional distance. "I would enjoy that," Elena replied, her own voice carefully neutral despite her growing excitement. "The partnership proposal does deserve thorough discussion, and restaurant conversations often generate insights that office meetings somehow miss." Marshall smiled with genuine pleasure at Elena's acceptance. "Excellent. There is a quiet Italian restaurant downtown that provides perfect atmosphere for strategic planning conversations. Shall I make reservations for 7 o'clock tonight?" Elena nodded, already anticipating the evening with a mixture of professional enthusiasm and personal curiosity about how their relationship might evolve in a more informal setting. The line between work collaboration and personal attraction had been blurring gradually, creating tension that was both exciting and professionally complicated. As Marshall continued toward his own office, Elena entered her workspace with thoughts racing beyond the museum partnership to questions about the growing connection between them. Their professional chemistry was undeniable, but she remained cautious about romantic complications that might affect her still-developing career with the foundation. Elena's phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "How is work progressing, Mija? Are you happy with your new position?" Elena replied quickly, "Work is wonderful. Marshall and I are having dinner tonight to discuss a museum partnership proposal." Maria's response came immediately. "Be careful about mixing business with personal feelings. Both are important, but timing matters for protecting your professional reputation." Elena stared at her mother's message, recognizing the wisdom in her caution. Elena had worked too hard, establishing her professional credibility to risk complications that might undermine her standing at the foundation or in the broader philanthropic community. Yet she could not deny the growing attraction she felt toward Marshall, or her appreciation for his genuine respect for her expertise and character. Their connection felt authentic rather than convenient, based on shared values and intellectual compatibility rather than simple proximity or gratitude. Elena spent the morning reviewing donor files and preparing for afternoon meetings, but her thoughts kept returning to the evening ahead and questions about how to navigate the delicate balance between professional collaboration and personal interest. At lunch, Elena called her father for guidance that she trusted implicitly. "Papa, I need advice about Marshall," Elena said without preamble when Roberto answered his phone. "I think we are both developing feelings that go beyond professional respect, but I'm worried about complications that might affect my work." Roberto was quiet for a moment, considering his daughter's dilemma with the careful thought he applied to all important family matters. "Elena, you are 24 years old and capable of making wise decisions about your personal life," Roberto said finally. "But remember that workplace relationships require extra caution, especially when there are differences in position or social background that others might misinterpret." Elena appreciated her father's balanced perspective. He neither discouraged her feelings nor ignored the practical complications such a relationship might create. "What if people think I got my job through romantic interest rather than professional merit?" Elena asked, voicing her deepest concern. "Then you prove them wrong through excellent work," Roberto replied firmly. "Your achievements speak for themselves, Mija." Anyone who knows your expertise understands that Marshall hired you because of your talents, not despite your background. Elena felt her anxiety lessening as her father's confidence reinforced her own sense of professional worth. She had earned her position through proven competence, and no romantic relationship could diminish that fundamental truth. Be honest about your feelings, but careful about timing, Roberto advised. Professional relationships that grow into personal ones can be wonderful, but they require extra wisdom and patience to develop properly. Elena thanked her father and returned to work with greater clarity about her approach to the evening ahead. She would enjoy Marshall's company and allow their relationship to develop naturally while maintaining appropriate boundaries that protected both their professional collaboration and her hard-earned reputation. The Foundation's work was too important and her career too valuable to risk either for romantic impulsiveness. But she was also too honest to deny the genuine affection and attraction that had been growing steadily since the night of the charity auction. The soft lighting and intimate atmosphere of Bella Vista restaurant created the perfect setting for conversation that could develop naturally between professional strategy and personal connection. Elena arrived precisely at 7 o'clock, her burgundy dress elegant but appropriately modest for what remained officially a business dinner despite its increasingly personal undertones. Marshall stood as Elena approached their corner table, his expression showing appreciation for her appearance that went beyond simple politeness. Over the past 2 months of working together, he had discovered layers of intelligence, humor, and character that made Elena's company the highlight of his days. "You look lovely tonight," Marshall said, his tone warm but respectful as he helped Elena with her chair. "Thank you for making time in your schedule for this extended strategy discussion." Elena smiled at Marshall's careful balance between personal compliment and professional framing. Both of them understood that their dinner represented more than simple work collaboration, yet neither was quite ready to acknowledge the romantic current that had been building steadily between them. "The museum partnership deserves thorough planning," Elena replied, opening her portfolio to maintain the fiction that their evening was purely professional. "I have been developing additional ideas about how we might integrate educational programming with fundraising events." As they ordered wine and reviewed the evening's specials, Elena found herself relaxing into conversation that flowed effortlessly between foundation business and personal observations. Marshall's genuine interest in her thoughts, combined with his own insights about philanthropic strategy, created intellectual chemistry that made the hours pass unnoticed. "Your idea about scholarship recipient presentations during auction events is brilliant," Marshall said, as they shared an appetizer of bruschetta. "Connecting donors directly with educational success stories would create emotional investment that pure charity appeals somehow miss." Elena felt pride warming her chest at Marshall's enthusiasm for her innovations. His recognition of her strategic thinking had become precious to her, representing validation from someone whose opinion she had grown to value enormously. "People respond to narrative connection," Elena explained, her passion for effective fundraising evident in her animated gestures. "When donors meet scholarship recipients personally, they understand that their contributions create real transformation rather than simply supporting abstract concepts." Marshall watched Elena's face light up as she discussed her ideas, marveling at how her combination of professional expertise and genuine compassion made her unlike anyone he had ever known. Her success at the charity auction had revealed her competence, but working together daily had shown him her character. "Elena, may I ask you something personal?" Marshall said, as their main courses arrived, his tone shifting subtly toward greater intimacy. Elena felt her heart rate quickening at the change in Marshall's voice. "Of course. How do you maintain such optimism about people's potential for generosity? Your work requires constant faith that individuals will choose charitable giving over personal comfort, yet you never seem cynical about human nature. Elena considered Marshall's question carefully, recognizing that her answer would reveal fundamental aspects of her character and worldview. I think my family's experience shaped my perspective, Elena said thoughtfully. My parents immigrated to this country with very little except determination to create opportunities for their children. They encountered both prejudice and kindness, but they chose to focus on the people who offered help rather than those who created obstacles. Marshall listened intently as Elena continued, fascinated by her insights into human behavior and motivation. When I see wealthy donors at foundation events, I try to remember that most people genuinely want to contribute to positive change. They may not always understand the most effective approaches, but their basic impulse toward generosity deserves respect and encouragement rather than manipulation or cynicism. Marshall felt his admiration for Elena deepening as she revealed the philosophical foundation underlying her professional success. Her effectiveness as a fundraiser stemmed not from clever techniques, but from authentic belief in people's capacity for goodness. That perspective must serve you well in donor relations, Marshall observed. People probably sense your genuine respect for their charitable impulses. Elena nodded, swirling wine in her glass as she reflected on her approach to philanthropic work. Authenticity creates trust, and trust generates sustainable giving relationships. Donors who feel manipulated may contribute once, but they rarely become long-term foundation supporters. As dinner progressed, their conversation meandered through topics ranging from Elena's university studies to Marshall's experiences inheriting family business responsibilities at a young age. Both discovered surprising commonalities despite their different backgrounds, particularly regarding the pressure of living up to family expectations and the challenge of establishing individual identity within inherited circumstances. Sometimes I wonder if I chose philanthropic work to honor my father's legacy, or because it genuinely represents my own passions, Marshall admitted, his vulnerability surprising Elena with its honesty. Perhaps both motivations can coexist, Elena suggested gently. Honoring family legacy through work that fulfills personal values seems like the best possible outcome. Marshall smiled at Elena's wise response, recognizing how her perspective helped him reconcile tensions he had struggled with for years. Her ability to find positive frameworks for complex emotional issues represented one of many qualities that made her company both professionally valuable and personally compelling. As the evening drew toward its conclusion, both Elena and Marshall felt reluctance to end conversation that had revealed new depths of compatibility and mutual attraction. Yet both remained conscious of professional boundaries that required careful navigation. Elena, I want you to know that tonight's discussion has been invaluable, Marshall said as he walked her to her car. Your insights about donor psychology and educational programming will significantly improve our foundation's effectiveness. Elena felt disappointment mixed with relief at Marshall's return to professional framing. Part of her had hoped for more explicit acknowledgement of the personal connection developing between them, while her practical mind appreciated his respect for appropriate boundaries. Thank you for including me in strategic planning at this level, Elena replied. Working directly on program development provides exactly the kind of professional growth I hope to achieve through this position. Marshall hesitated beside Elena's car, clearly wanting to extend their evening but uncertain about appropriate next steps given their professional relationship and Elena's need to establish herself independently within the foundation. Elena, would you be interested in attending the Hartford Museum's exhibition opening next Friday evening? It would provide excellent research for our partnership proposal, and I think you would genuinely enjoy their new contemporary collection. Elena felt her pulse quickening at what represented their first explicitly social invitation, rather than business meeting disguised as personal time. "I would love to attend," Elena replied, her genuine enthusiasm evident despite her attempt to maintain professional composure. As Marshall drove away, Elena sat in her car for several minutes, processing the evening's significance. Their relationship was clearly evolving beyond simple professional collaboration, yet both were managing the transition with wisdom and respect that protected their working partnership, while allowing personal attraction to develop naturally. Elena felt gratitude for Marshall's patience and consideration. Along with growing excitement about possibilities she was finally allowing herself to contemplate seriously. The Hartford Museum of Fine Arts buzzed with opening night energy as Elena Martinez entered the Contemporary Wing's gleaming galleries on Marshall Croft's arm. The evening represented their first official social appearance together, a milestone that felt both natural and significant as their relationship continued evolving beyond professional collaboration into something deeper and more personal. Elena wore a midnight blue cocktail dress that complemented her natural elegance while maintaining the sophisticated professionalism that had become her signature. Over the past 3 months, working at the Croft Foundation, she had developed confidence in navigating elite social settings while remaining authentically herself, rather than attempting to become someone she was not. "The turnout is impressive," Elena observed as they moved through crowds of art enthusiasts, museum patrons, and cultural leaders whose conversations created an atmosphere of intellectual excitement. This level of community engagement suggests excellent partnership potential for educational programming. Marshall smiled at Elena's instinctive analysis of networking opportunities and strategic value, even while attending what was ostensibly a social event. Her ability to blend personal enjoyment with professional insight represented one of many qualities that made her company both personally compelling and professionally invaluable. "Would you like to begin with the sculpture installations? Or do you prefer to experience exhibitions chronologically?" Marshall asked, genuinely interested in Elena's preferences rather than simply following his own inclinations. Elena considered the question thoughtfully, appreciating Marshall's attention to her comfort and interests. "I think chronological progression allows for better understanding of artistic evolution within the contemporary movement. Each piece builds conceptually on previous works, creating narrative flow that enhances overall appreciation." As they moved through the galleries, Elena's extensive art history knowledge became evident through observations that revealed both scholarly preparation and intuitive aesthetic appreciation. Her comments about technique, historical context, and cultural significance impressed Marshall while demonstrating the intellectual depth that made her such an effective fundraising professional. This installation by Maria Santos explores themes of cultural identity through mixed media approaches. Elena explained as they paused before a compelling piece that combined traditional Mexican craftsmanship with contemporary American artistic techniques. Her work speaks directly to immigrant experiences while maintaining universal emotional resonance. Marshall listened with fascination as Elena analyzed the artist's use of symbolic elements and cultural references. Her perspective was informed by both academic study and personal experience with cultural bridge building, creating insights that purely theoretical analysis might miss entirely. "Your interpretation adds layers of meaning that I would never have recognized independently," Marshall admitted. "This is exactly why I value your perspective on foundation programming. You understand connections between art, education, and social impact that traditional approaches often overlook." Elena felt warmth spreading through her chest at Marshall's appreciation for her analytical abilities. His recognition of her intellectual contributions had become increasingly important to her, representing validation from someone whose opinion she had grown to treasure. As the evening progressed, Elena and Marshall found themselves engaged in increasingly personal conversation, interspersed with their art appreciation. The museum setting provided natural conversation starters while creating intimate moments as they shared reactions to pieces that moved or surprised them. "Elena, may I tell you something?" Marshall said as they paused in a quieter gallery featuring smaller contemporary works. "These past 3 months of working together have been the most professionally fulfilling period of my career." Elena felt her heart rate quickening at Marshall's shift toward more personal revelation. "The foundation work has been incredible for me as well. I never imagined that my auction expertise could translate into such meaningful philanthropic impact." Marshall moved slightly closer as they pretended to study a particularly complex abstract painting. "I was not referring only to professional satisfaction. Elena, your presence has transformed not just our fundraising effectiveness, but my entire approach to work and life." Elena felt her breath catching as Marshall's words carried implications that went far beyond professional appreciation. The moment she had been both anticipating and avoiding was clearly approaching, requiring decisions about how to navigate her feelings while protecting the career she had worked so hard to establish. "Marshall, I need to be honest about something," Elena said, her voice quiet but steady. "I have developed feelings for you that go beyond professional respect and friendship. But I am also concerned about complications that might affect my work or my reputation within the philanthropic community." Marshall's expression showed relief and appreciation for Elena's directness. "Elena, I have been struggling with the same feelings and concerns. What I feel for you is genuine and growing stronger each day, but I understand your need to protect your professional standing." Elena felt tears threatening as Marshall's honesty matched her own vulnerability. The connection between them had become undeniable, yet the practical complications remained real and challenging. "I do not want people to think that my position at the foundation resulted from personal relationship rather than professional merit," Elena explained, voicing her deepest fear. "My achievements need to stand independently, regardless of any romantic connection we might develop." Marshall nodded with complete understanding. "Elena, everyone who has observed your work knows that you earned your position through exceptional competence. Your success at the charity auction, your innovative programming ideas, and your outstanding donor relations speak for themselves." Elena appreciated Marshall's reassurance, but her practical concerns required more substantial resolution than simple encouragement could provide. "Perhaps we should maintain our current professional relationship for now," Elena suggested reluctantly. "Allow me to establish myself more completely at the foundation before exploring personal possibilities that might complicate workplace dynamics." Marshall felt disappointment at Elena's caution, but his respect for her wisdom overrode his personal desires. "Elena, if you need more time to feel secure in your professional position, I will wait as long as necessary. My feelings are not going to change based on timing considerations." Elena felt gratitude and growing affection for Marshall's patient understanding. His willingness to prioritize her professional comfort over his personal desires demonstrated exactly the kind of character that had attracted her to him in the first place. "Thank you for understanding my concerns," Elena said, her voice showing both appreciation and regret for the delay she felt necessary. "My feelings for you are real and growing, but I need to prove myself independently before exploring where this connection might lead." Marshall reached for Elena's hand briefly, squeezing gently before releasing her fingers. "Elena, You have already proven yourself beyond any reasonable doubt, but I understand your need for additional time and security. Good things are worth waiting for, especially when they involve someone as remarkable as you. Elena felt her heart swelling with affection for Marshall's patience and respect for her professional needs. Their relationship was developing with the same careful attention to timing and appropriateness that characterized all their interactions, creating foundation for lasting connection rather than impulsive romance that might not survive practical challenges. As they concluded their museum visit, both Elena and Marshall felt satisfaction with their honest communication about feelings and concerns. Their relationship was moving forward with wisdom and mutual respect that protected both their professional collaboration and their growing personal bond. The evening had clarified their mutual attraction while establishing boundaries that would allow their connection to develop at pace that honored Elena's professional priorities and Marshall's genuine respect for her career advancement needs. Elena Martinez discovered that acknowledging romantic feelings while maintaining professional boundaries created a tension that permeated every interaction with Marshall Croft. 3 weeks after their honest conversation at the museum, she found herself hyper-aware of his presence during foundation meetings, distracted by the warmth in his voice when he praised her work, and struggling to concentrate on donor correspondence when he stopped by her office for strategic consultations. The December morning brought news that would test both their professional partnership and personal restraint. Elena was reviewing year-end fundraising reports when Marshall knocked on her office door, his expression showing excitement mixed with something that might have been nervous anticipation. "Elena, I have information that will interest you professionally," Marshall said as he entered her office, carrying a thick manila envelope. "The National Philanthropic Foundation has nominated you for their Rising Professional Award based on your innovations in charity auction management." Elena felt her coffee cup freeze halfway to her lips as she absorbed the implications of Marshall's announcement. The National Philanthropic Foundation represented the pinnacle of recognition within the charitable fundraising community, and their Rising Professional Award was considered the most prestigious honor available to young development professionals. "Marshall, that is incredible," Elena said, her voice showing amazement rather than immediate excitement. "But how did they learn about my work? The charity auction was only 4 months ago." Marshall's expression became slightly uncomfortable as he placed the envelope on Elena's desk. "I submitted your nomination, along with detailed documentation of your auction innovations and foundation programming contributions. The application deadline was last month, and I wanted to ensure your achievements received appropriate recognition." Elena stared at Marshall as conflicting emotions raced through her mind. Professional pride at receiving such prestigious nomination warred with concern about whether Marshall's personal feelings had influenced his decision to submit her name without consultation or permission. "You nominated me without discussing it first?" Elena asked, her tone carefully neutral despite her internal confusion. Marshall recognized immediately that his well-intentioned gesture had created exactly the kind of professional complication Elena had been trying to avoid. "Elena, I apologize for not consulting you first. I was focused on ensuring your expertise received appropriate recognition, but I should have asked your permission before submitting your name." Elena opened the envelope and reviewed the nomination materials, finding detailed documentation of her auction techniques, donor psychology innovations, and foundation programming contributions. Marshall's submission was thoroughly professional and entirely merit-based, yet the situation still felt complicated by their acknowledged personal feelings. "The nomination is completely legitimate," Elena said after reviewing the materials carefully. "My concern is not about qualification, but about timing and perception within our professional relationship." Marshall sat across from Elena's desk, his expression showing genuine remorse for creating additional stress around issues they had been navigating carefully. "Elena, I want you to understand that my decision to nominate you was based entirely on professional merit. Your innovations deserve recognition, regardless of any personal connection between us." Elena appreciated Marshall's clarification, but practical concerns remained about how others might interpret the nomination timeline relative to their working relationship and acknowledged mutual attraction. "What if people assume you nominated me because of personal feelings rather than professional achievement?" Elena asked, voicing the worry that had been growing since Marshall's announcement. "Then they would be wrong," Marshall replied firmly. "Elena, your work at the charity auction was witnessed by 300 prominent citizens. Your foundation programming innovations are documented through measurable results. Your donor relations success speaks for itself through statistical improvement in giving patterns." Elena felt some of her anxiety lessening as Marshall reminded her of objective evidence supporting her professional competence. Yet she remained concerned about protecting her reputation within the philanthropic community, where appearances could affect career advancement opportunities. "I appreciate your confidence in my abilities," Elena said thoughtfully, "but I need to consider whether accepting this nomination might create complications that could affect my long-term professional development." Marshall felt alarm at the possibility that his attempt to honor Elena's achievements might instead harm her career prospects. "Elena, would you prefer that I withdraw the nomination? I never intended to create professional difficulties for you." Elena considered Marshall's offer while reviewing the nomination materials again. The documentation was impressive and entirely merit-based, representing validation of her expertise from the most respected organization in philanthropic fundraising. Declining such recognition due to relationship concerns might actually damage her professional standing more than accepting it. "No, I think withdrawing the nomination would create more questions than accepting it," Elena decided. "But Marshall, we need to discuss how to handle our personal relationship while this process unfolds. Professional recognition of this magnitude requires absolute clarity about appropriate boundaries." Marshall nodded seriously, understanding that Elena's concerns were both reasonable and important for protecting her career reputation. "What would make you most comfortable regarding our professional and personal interactions during the award consideration period?" Eleanor felt gratitude for Marshall's willingness to prioritize her professional comfort over personal desires. His consistent demonstration of respect for her career needs represented one of many reasons her feelings for him continued deepening despite her attempts to maintain appropriate distance. "I think we should maintain strictly professional interactions until the award process concludes," Elena said reluctantly. "No personal dinners, no social events together, and no discussions of our relationship status. Everything needs to be clearly professional to avoid any appearance of impropriety." Marshall felt disappointment at the prospect of returning to purely professional interaction, but his respect for Elena's wisdom overrode personal desires. "Elena, if that approach protects your professional standing, then I completely support maintaining appropriate boundaries." Elena smiled with appreciation for Marshall's understanding, though she felt sadness at the prospect of stepping back from the personal connection they had been developing carefully over recent months. "Thank you for respecting my professional needs," Elena said, her voice carrying both gratitude and regret. "This recognition represents an incredible opportunity for my career development, but only if it remains clearly merit-based rather than relationship-influenced." As Marshall left Elena's office, both felt the weight of increased distance necessitated by professional considerations. The timing was unfortunate, yet both understood that protecting Elena's reputation required temporary sacrifice of personal relationship development. Elena spent the remainder of the morning processing the implications of her nomination while managing excitement about professional recognition that could transform her career trajectory within the philanthropic community. The Rising Professional Award represented validation of her expertise on the national level, but achieving it required maintaining absolute professional integrity throughout the evaluation process. Personal feelings would have to wait while her career took precedence over romantic considerations. Elena Martinez spent sleepless nights staring at her apartment ceiling, wrestling with the weight of professional recognition that felt both deserved and complicated. 2 weeks had passed since Marshall's nomination announcement, 2 weeks of maintaining rigid professional boundaries while her heart ached for the connection they had been forced to abandon temporarily. The National Philanthropic Foundation's preliminary review had advanced her application to the final round, meaning 3 months of additional scrutiny that would examine every aspect of her professional achievements and personal conduct. Elena felt proud of reaching this stage based purely on merit, yet exhausted by the emotional cost of suppressing her feelings for Marshall. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "You seem troubled lately, Mija. Is everything well with your work?" Elena stared at the message, realizing that her family had noticed the strain she thought she was hiding successfully. The professional distance from Marshall had created an emptiness that affected every aspect of her daily routine, from morning coffee that no longer brought anticipation of their conversations to foundation meetings that felt hollow without personal connection. Elena called her mother, needing guidance that only Maria Martinez could provide. "Mama, I am struggling with something important," Elena admitted when Maria answered. "The award nomination is proceeding well, but maintaining professional distance from Marshall is harder than I expected." Maria listened patiently as Elena explained her emotional turmoil, the way professional boundaries were protecting her reputation while making her miserable personally. "Elena, success that costs your happiness is not true success," Maria said gently. "What good is professional recognition if it prevents you from living authentically?" Elena felt tears threatening as her mother voiced the conflict she had been avoiding. "But Mama, what if people think I achieved everything through romantic connection rather than my own abilities?" "Then they would be blind to your obvious competence," Maria replied firmly. "Elena, you earned $45,000 annually while maintaining a 3.8 grade average. You conducted that charity auction because of your expertise, not because of any man's influence. Your worth exists independently of any relationship status." Elena absorbed her mother's words, feeling some of her anxiety beginning to shift toward clarity. Perhaps her fear of others' opinions was preventing her from making decisions that honored both her professional achievements and her personal happiness. "What if I am wrong about Marshall's feelings?" Elena asked, voicing another fear she had been carrying. "What if maintaining distance makes him realize that pursuing a relationship is not worth the complications?" Maria laughed softly. "Mija, I have watched that young man look at you during family dinners. His feelings are not going to disappear because of temporary professional considerations. Real love waits for appropriate timing." Elena felt relief washing over her as Maria's wisdom provided perspective she had been missing during weeks of internal conflict. Marshall's consistent respect for her professional needs, combined with his expressed willingness to wait as long as necessary, demonstrated exactly the kind of character that had attracted her initially. "What should I do, Mama?" Elena asked, seeking guidance that she trusted completely. "Be honest about what you want," Maria replied. "Professional success means nothing if it costs you personal fulfillment with someone who respects and values you appropriately." Elena thanked her mother and ended the call with growing clarity about her priorities. The award nomination represented wonderful professional validation, but not at the expense of authentic living or meaningful relationship with someone whose character she had grown to admire deeply. That evening, Elena found herself walking through the Foundation's neighborhood, needing fresh air and quiet reflection to process her changing perspective. The December evening was crisp and clear, with holiday lights beginning to appear in windows of the elegant brownstones that housed various charitable organizations. Elena paused outside the Foundation building, looking up at Marshall's office window, where light still glowed despite the late hour. She knew he had been working longer days since they established professional distance, probably missing their collaborative conversations as much as she missed his companionship and intellectual stimulation. Elena's phone rang, interrupting her contemplation. Marshall's name appeared on the screen, creating immediate flutter of anticipation mixed with professional caution. "Elena, I apologize for calling so late." Marshall's voice carried exhaustion and something that might have been loneliness. "I wanted to inform you that the Hartford Museum partnership proposal you developed has been accepted. They are enthusiastic about implementing your educational programming ideas." Elena felt pride and happiness at the professional news, followed immediately by sadness that she could not share this achievement with Marshall in the personal way she truly wanted. "That is wonderful news," Elena replied, her voice carefully professional despite her emotional response. "The partnership will provide exactly the kind of innovative programming that can transform Foundation impact." "Elena," Marshall said after a pause, his tone shifting toward something more personal despite their established boundaries, "I want you to know that your ideas made this partnership possible. Your vision for connecting educational programming with fundraising strategy has revolutionized our approach to philanthropic work." Eleanor felt her heart racing at the warmth in Marshall's voice, the subtle way he was acknowledging both her professional value and his personal appreciation despite their agreed-upon distance. "Thank you for supporting my innovations," Elena replied, fighting the urge to extend their conversation beyond professional necessity. "Elena, may I say something that might violate our current boundaries?" Marshall asked, his voice carrying vulnerability that made Elena's chest tighten with longing. Elena felt her professional resolve wavering as Marshall's question opened possibility for the personal conversation she had been craving for weeks. "What did you want to say?" Elena asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I miss you," Marshall said simply. "I miss our conversations, our strategic planning sessions, our debates about donor psychology and program development. I miss the way you laugh when I make terrible jokes about Foundation board politics. I miss feeling like we are building something meaningful together rather than simply working in parallel professional roles." Eleanor felt tears threatening as Marshall's honesty matched her own suppressed feelings perfectly. "Marshall, I miss you too. More than I thought possible when we agreed to maintain distance. Elena, what if we are approaching this situation incorrectly?" Marshall asked, his voice growing stronger with conviction. "What if proving your independence requires authentic living rather than artificial separation? Your professional achievements speak for themselves, regardless of any personal relationship we might develop." Elena felt her carefully constructed professional barriers beginning to crumble as Marshall's words offered permission to consider alternatives she had been avoiding. "What are you suggesting?" Elena asked, though her heart already knew the answer she wanted to hear. "I am suggesting that we stop allowing fear of others' opinions to prevent us from exploring what might be the most important relationship of both our lives," Marshall replied with growing confidence. "Elena, you have already proven your professional worth beyond any reasonable doubt. Now prove your personal courage by being honest about what you want rather than what you think others expect." Elena stood outside the Foundation building, looking up at Marshall's lighted window while feeling her world shifting toward possibilities she had been denying herself through excessive caution. "Marshall, what I want is to be with you," Elena said, her voice carrying both relief and determination. "Professionally and personally, as partners in work and in life. Then let us stop wasting time on unnecessary distance," Marshall replied, his joy evident even through the phone. "Elena, will you have dinner with me tomorrow night? Not for foundation business or strategic planning, but because I care about you and want to explore where our relationship might lead without artificial limitations." Elena felt her heart soaring as she gave voice to desires she had been suppressing for weeks. "Yes, Marshall, I would love to have dinner with you." As Elena walked home through the December evening, she felt lightness and anticipation that had been missing since they imposed professional boundaries. Tomorrow night would mark the beginning of authentic exploration of their relationship potential based on mutual respect, genuine affection, and shared values that transcended any professional considerations. Elena Martinez was finally ready to trust both her professional worth and her personal judgment about what would bring lasting happiness. Marshall Croft arrived at Elena's apartment building carrying a single white rose and nervous energy that reminded him of his first high school date. 3 months of professional collaboration, followed by weeks of enforced distance, had only intensified his certainty that Elena Martinez represented something extraordinary in his life, someone worth risking conventional expectations and social complications. Elena opened her door wearing a simple black dress that enhanced her natural elegance while maintaining the understated sophistication that had become her signature. Her smile carried warmth and anticipation that matched Marshall's own excitement about finally allowing their relationship to develop without artificial constraints. "You look beautiful," Marshall said, offering Elena the rose with genuine appreciation. "Thank you for agreeing to explore what we have been avoiding for far too long." Elena accepted the flower with grace that reflected her growing comfort with receiving personal attention from Marshall. "Thank you for being patient with my professional concerns. I needed time to trust that my achievements could stand independently, regardless of any personal relationship." As they walked toward Marshall's car, Elena felt excitement mixed with nervousness about crossing the boundary from professional colleagues to potential romantic partners. Their connection had been building for months, but acknowledging it officially felt both natural and momentous. "I made reservations at that small French restaurant you mentioned enjoying," Marshall said, as he helped Elena into the passenger seat. "Quiet atmosphere for conversation that we have been needing to have for weeks." Elena smiled at Marshall's attention to her preferences and his obvious planning to create appropriate setting for important personal discussion. His consistent thoughtfulness represented one of many qualities that had attracted her, despite her attempts to maintain professional distance. During the drive downtown, Elena and Marshall fell into conversation that felt both familiar and different now that personal barriers had been lowered. Topics flowed naturally between foundation work and personal observations, creating the intellectual and emotional connection that had made their professional collaboration so rewarding. "Elena, may I ask you something that has been concerning me?" Marshall said, as they settled into their corner table at the intimate restaurant. "Do you have any regrets about the way our relationship has developed? Any concerns that I have somehow compromised your professional independence?" Elena considered Marshall's question carefully, appreciating his continued sensitivity to issues that had caused her anxiety over recent months. "Marshall, I think my concerns were more about other people's perceptions than about actual reality," Elena replied thoughtfully. "Your respect for my expertise and your support of my professional development have been consistent from our first conversation." Any romantic feelings developed after you had already seen my competence demonstrated? Marshall felt relief at Elena's perspective, though he remained concerned about protecting her reputation within the philanthropic community, where appearances could affect career advancement opportunities. "What about the award nomination?" Marshall asked. "Are you comfortable with that situation now that we are acknowledging personal feelings?" Elena nodded with growing confidence. "The nomination documentation is entirely merit-based, and my professional achievements speak for themselves. If anything, trying to hide our connection might create more questions than being honest about how our relationship developed naturally through shared work and values." Marshall smiled at Elena's wisdom and growing self-assurance. Her ability to analyze complex situations with both intellectual rigor and emotional intelligence represented one of many reasons he had fallen in love with her. "Elena, I want to be completely honest about something," Marshall said, his tone becoming more serious. "What I feel for you goes far beyond professional admiration or temporary attraction. I believe I am falling in love with you, and I want to explore whether you might feel similarly." Elena felt her heart racing as Marshall voiced exactly what she had been hoping to hear. "Marshall, I have been falling in love with you too. Your character, your respect for my abilities, your genuine commitment to meaningful work, everything about you appeals to me on levels I have never experienced before." Marshall reached across the table to take Elena's hand, feeling the rightness of finally acknowledging feelings they had both been protecting for weeks. "Elena, what would you think about making our relationship official?" Marshall asked. "I want to introduce you as my girlfriend rather than just my colleague. I want to attend social events together, plan weekend activities, and explore what a future might look like with someone I admire and care about deeply." Elena felt tears of happiness threatening as Marshall offered exactly the kind of authentic relationship she had been longing for while maintaining professional boundaries. "I would love that," Elena replied, her voice showing both joy and relief. "I want to explore what we might build together, both personally and professionally, without fear or artificial limitations." As their dinner progressed, Elena and Marshall discussed practical considerations about navigating their new relationship status while maintaining professional effectiveness at the foundation. Both were committed to ensuring that personal feelings enhanced rather than complicated their collaborative work. "What about your family's reaction?" Marshall asked, remembering Roberto's protective concern about appropriate boundaries and Elena's professional reputation. Elena smiled with confidence that surprised her. "My parents have been encouraging me to follow my heart rather than letting fear prevent personal happiness. They respect you enormously, and they want me to make choices based on what will bring lasting fulfillment." Marshall felt gratitude for the Martinez family's acceptance and support, recognizing how important their approval was for Elena's comfort with their relationship development. "Elena, there is something else I want to discuss," Marshall said, as their evening drew toward its conclusion. "I have been developing ideas for expanding the Foundation's educational programming, and I want you to be my full partner in that vision rather than simply my employee." Elena felt curiosity and excitement at Marshall's suggestion. "What kind of partnership are you considering?" "I want to create a new initiative focused specifically on educational access and arts programming for underserved communities," Marshall explained. "Something that would allow you to use your full range of talents while building programs that reflect both our values and expertise." Elena felt her heart soaring at the possibility of expanded professional collaboration that would also honor their personal partnership. "Marshall, that sounds like exactly the kind of meaningful work I have always wanted to pursue." As Marshall walked Elena to her apartment door, both felt satisfaction with their honest communication and excitement about possibilities ahead. Their relationship was finally developing without artificial constraints, based on mutual respect, genuine affection, and shared commitment to work that mattered. "Elena, may I kiss you?" Marshall asked softly as they reached her doorway. Elena answered by moving closer, allowing Marshall to hold her gently as they shared their first kiss under the December stars. The moment felt both inevitable and magical, confirmation of feelings that had been building through months of professional collaboration and personal connection. "Thank you for being patient with my fears," Elena whispered as they held each other close. "Thank you for being worth waiting for," Marshall replied, his voice filled with love and gratitude. Elena Martinez finally felt free to embrace both professional success and personal happiness with the man who had seen her worth from the beginning. Elena Martinez woke on a snowy January morning, feeling contentment that had been missing from her life for months. 6 weeks had passed since she and Marshall officially began their romantic relationship. 6 weeks of discovering that personal happiness enhanced rather than complicated their professional collaboration at the Croft Foundation. The National Philanthropic Foundation had announced Elena as the winner of their Rising Professional Award, validation that came with $25,000 in grant funding for innovative programming development. Elena felt pride in achieving recognition based purely on professional merit, while also enjoying the luxury of sharing her success with someone who understood its significance completely. Marshall knocked on Elena's apartment door at 7 in the morning, carrying coffee and croissants from their favorite bakery, along with excitement that seemed barely contained. "Good morning, beautiful," Marshall said, kissing Elena gently before presenting breakfast with theatrical flourish. "I have something important to discuss that could not wait for our usual office meeting time." Elena laughed at Marshall's obvious enthusiasm while accepting coffee that was prepared exactly as she preferred. His attention to small details continued surprising her with consistent thoughtfulness that made their relationship feel both romantic and comfortable. "What has you so excited this early?" Elena asked, settling beside Marshall on her small couch to enjoy breakfast together before heading to their respective workdays. Marshall pulled out a thick folder containing documents that appeared to be legal and financial rather than typical foundation materials. "Elena, I have been working with attorneys and accountants to develop a proposal that would formalize our professional partnership while creating new opportunities for expanded educational programming." Elena felt curiosity and anticipation as Marshall's tone suggested something more significant than routine foundation business. "What kind of proposal?" "I want to establish the Martinez Croft Foundation for Educational Excellence," Marshall said, his voice showing both excitement and nervousness about Elena's potential response. "A separate entity focused specifically on arts education and scholarship programming, with you as executive director and me as chairman of the board." Elena felt her coffee cup freezing halfway to her lips as she absorbed the implications of Marshall's suggestion. A foundation bearing her family name would represent professional recognition beyond anything she had ever imagined possible. "Marshall, that is incredibly generous, but I need to understand the structure completely," Elena said, her practical mind immediately analyzing the proposal's implications. Would this be charity or genuine partnership based on professional capability? Marshall appreciated Elena's direct question and her need for clarity about the arrangement's foundation. "Elena, this would be equal partnership based on your proven expertise in fundraising innovation and educational programming. The initial funding would come from my inheritance, but operational success would depend entirely on your professional capabilities." Elena reviewed the legal documents Marshall had prepared, finding detailed specifications for foundation governance, programming focus, and professional responsibilities that reflected genuine partnership rather than charitable gesture disguised as professional opportunity. The focus would be arts education access for underserved communities, Elena observed, reading through program descriptions that aligned perfectly with her personal passions and professional expertise. Scholarship programs, educational partnerships, innovative fundraising approaches, everything we have been discussing for months. Marshall nodded enthusiastically. Elena, your vision for connecting educational programming with sustainable fundraising has revolutionized my understanding of effective philanthropy. This foundation would provide the perfect platform for implementing those innovations on larger scale. Elena felt excitement building as she contemplated possibilities for meaningful work that would combine her auction expertise, educational background, and genuine passion for creating opportunities for young people seeking advancement through merit and determination. What about governance structure? Elena asked, her business administration background requiring clarity about decision-making authority and operational control. Equal partnership in all major decisions, Marshall replied immediately. You would have complete authority over program development and implementation, while I would focus on board relations and major donor cultivation. Collaborative leadership based on our respective strengths and expertise. Elena felt tears threatening as Marshall's proposal offered everything she had dreamed about professionally while maintaining the authentic partnership that had become precious to her personally. Marshall, this represents incredible opportunity for impact that goes far beyond anything I could achieve independently, Elena said, her voice showing both gratitude and growing excitement. Arts education access could transform countless young lives by providing opportunities that talent deserves, regardless of economic circumstances. Marshall smiled at Elena's immediate focus on programming potential rather than personal advancement. Her genuine commitment to educational mission rather than career prestige represented one of many reasons he wanted her as his partner in both professional and personal endeavors. Elena, there is something else I want to discuss, Marshall said, his tone shifting toward even greater significance. The foundation partnership represents my professional proposal, but I also have a personal question that I hope you will consider seriously. Elena felt her heart rate quickening as Marshall's expression became tender and vulnerable in ways that suggested he was approaching something momentous. Marshall reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew a small velvet box that made Elena's breath catch with anticipation and overwhelming emotion. Elena Martinez, you have transformed my understanding of what partnership means in both professional and personal contexts, Marshall said, opening the box to reveal an elegant engagement ring that reflected their shared values of understated sophistication and authentic beauty. Would you do me the honor of becoming my wife as well as my foundation partner? Elena felt tears streaming down her cheeks as Marshall offered everything she had ever wanted personally and professionally through one extraordinary proposal that honored both her expertise and her heart. Marshall, yes, Elena said through her tears, allowing him to slide the ring onto her finger while feeling her life transforming in the most wonderful way imaginable. Yes to the foundation partnership, yes to marriage, yes to building something meaningful together that honors both our professional capabilities and personal love. Marshall held Elena close as they both absorbed the magnitude of what they were committing to together. Their relationship had developed through professional respect into personal love, creating foundation for partnership that would serve both their individual growth and their shared mission of creating educational opportunities for others. Elena, I want you to know that you are not gaining a husband who rescued you from difficult circumstances, Marshall said, his voice filled with love and respect. You are gaining a partner who recognizes your extraordinary worth and wants to build a future that honors everything you bring to our relationship." Elena felt complete happiness as Marshall's words confirmed that their partnership was based on mutual recognition of worth rather than social rescue or economic advancement. She was marrying someone who valued her expertise, respected her character, and shared her commitment to meaningful work that would benefit others. The Martinez-Croft Foundation for Educational Excellence would provide platform for their professional collaboration, while their marriage would create personal foundation for lifetime partnership based on love, respect, and shared values that transcended any social or economic considerations. Elena Martinez was becoming Elena Martinez-Croft through choice based on authentic love rather than circumstances requiring rescue or charity. The elegant ballroom of the Meridian Hotel had been transformed into a celebration space that perfectly captured Elena and Marshall's vision for the Martinez-Croft Foundation launch event. 6 months after their engagement, Elena stood before 200 prominent philanthropists, educators, and community leaders, ready to present the Foundation's mission with confidence that reflected both professional expertise and personal fulfillment. Elena wore a sophisticated navy dress that enhanced her natural authority while maintaining the understated elegance that had become her signature. Her engagement ring caught the light as she gestured toward the presentation materials, symbolizing both personal happiness and professional partnership that had created this moment of public recognition. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight to launch the Martinez-Croft Foundation for Educational Excellence. Elena began, her voice carrying the perfect blend of professional confidence and authentic passion. Our mission is simple yet revolutionary: to ensure that artistic talent and educational ambition receive support regardless of economic circumstances or social background. Elena felt the audience's attention as she outlined programming initiatives that would provide scholarship opportunities, educational partnerships, and innovative fundraising approaches designed to maximize impact on underserved communities seeking educational advancement. Marshall watched from the front row with pride that encompassed both Elena's professional capabilities and personal growth over the past year. The young woman who had stepped forward during a medical emergency had evolved into a confident foundation executive whose expertise commanded respect from the city's most prominent philanthropic leaders. Our first initiative will provide 25 scholarships annually for arts education programs in partnership with 3 local universities, Elena continued, her presentation flowing smoothly through detailed program descriptions that demonstrated thorough planning and strategic thinking. Each scholarship includes not only tuition support, but mentoring relationships and internship opportunities designed to create lasting career advancement. Roberto Martinez sat at a table near the front, his weathered hands folded carefully as he watched his daughter command the room with natural authority. The pride in his expression transcended language barriers as he observed Elena's transformation from the young woman who had once helped him with garden work to the professional leader presenting innovative programs to hundreds of influential citizens. The Foundation's fundraising approach combines traditional charity auction techniques with educational programming that connects donors directly to scholarship recipients, Elena explained, drawing from expertise that had been validated through the Rising Professional Award and demonstrated through measurable results. This model creates sustainable giving relationships based on personal investment in individual success stories. Elena gestured toward a display featuring artwork created by students who would benefit from foundation programming. These pieces represent not just artistic achievement, but educational opportunity that transforms individual lives while enriching entire communities through cultural advancement. The audience responded with enthusiasm that reflected genuine interest in Elena's innovative approaches to philanthropic programming. Her ability to connect educational mission with effective fundraising strategy had impressed civic leaders who understood the challenges of sustainable charitable work. Marshall stood as Elena concluded her presentation, his expression showing love and admiration for the remarkable woman who had agreed to become his wife and professional partner. Elena has created programming that honors both educational excellence and community service. The Martinez Croft Foundation represents her vision for transforming lives through opportunity rather than charity. Eleanor felt overwhelmed with gratitude as applause filled the ballroom. The recognition represented validation of everything she had worked toward throughout years of balancing education with professional development, family values with personal ambition, and authentic character with career advancement. As the formal presentation concluded and guests moved toward reception activities, Elena found herself surrounded by individuals eager to discuss partnership opportunities, volunteer possibilities, and strategic collaboration that could expand foundation impact beyond initial programming goals. Miss Martinez, your approach to educational programming is exactly what our community needs, said Patricia Whitman, the arts patron who had been among the first to recognize Elena's expertise during the charity auction 8 months earlier. The foundation model you have developed could serve as template for similar initiatives throughout the region. Elena felt satisfaction at Patricia's recognition, remembering their first conversation when Elena had been nervous about fitting into elite social circles. Now she participated in philanthropic discussions as respected professional whose opinions were sought rather than tolerated. Roberto approached Elena during a quiet moment, his pride evident as he embraced his daughter warmly. "Mija, your mother and I are so proud of everything you have accomplished. You have honored our family while helping other families achieve their own dreams." Elena felt tears threatening as her father's words acknowledged both personal achievement and authentic character that had remained constant throughout her professional advancement. "Papa, none of this would have been possible without the values and support you and Mama provided," Elena replied, her voice thick with emotion. "The foundation will help other young people whose parents sacrifice for their children's education, just as you sacrificed for mine." Marshall joined Elena and Roberto, his expression showing deep respect for the man whose wisdom and work ethic had shaped the woman he loved. "Roberto, Elena's success reflects the foundation you and Maria provided," Marshall said sincerely. "Your daughter's character and capabilities make her the perfect partner for work that will honor families like yours while creating opportunities for others." Roberto nodded with appreciation for Marshall's recognition of family contributions to Elena's achievements. "You chose well, Mr. Croft. Elena will be an excellent partner in all aspects of life and work." As the evening progressed through successful donor conversations and partnership discussions, Elena felt complete integration of personal happiness with professional fulfillment. The foundation launch represented culmination of her journey from virtual auction specialist to recognized philanthropic leader, while her engagement to Marshall provided personal foundation for lifetime partnership based on mutual respect and shared values. Elena Martinez had achieved success that honored both her expertise and her character, creating opportunities for others while building future with someone who recognized her worth from the beginning. The transformation felt both extraordinary and completely natural, as if she had finally found the professional and personal environment where her authentic self could flourish without limitation or apology. The Martinez Croft Foundation for Educational Excellence would serve communities while providing platform for Elena's continued growth as both professional leader and devoted partner to the man who had seen her potential when others overlooked her completely. 18 months after the charity auction that had transformed Elena Martinez from unknown virtual auction specialist to nationally recognized philanthropic leader, she stood in the bright gallery space of the Martinez Croft Foundation's new community center, surrounded by 25 scholarship recipients displaying their artistic achievements in the foundation's first annual student exhibition. Elena wore a flowing emerald dress that complemented her engagement ring, while reflecting the confidence and grace that had become her signature during months of successful foundation leadership. The wedding was scheduled for next month, but tonight belonged to celebrating educational transformation that represented the heart of everything she and Marshall had built together. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Voices Rising, our inaugural exhibition featuring work by Martinez Croft Foundation scholarship recipients. Elena announced to the gathered crowd of donors, community members, and proud families whose lives had been touched by foundation programming. Elena felt overwhelming satisfaction as she surveyed faces that reflected the diversity and determination characteristic of young people who had earned opportunities through talent and hard work rather than social connection or economic privilege. These students embodied everything the foundation had been created to support: educational ambition combined with artistic ability that deserved recognition regardless of background circumstances. Marshall stood near the back of the gallery, his expression showing wonder at Elena's transformation over the past year and a half. The nervous young woman who had volunteered to save a charity auction had evolved into a confident foundation executive whose programs had created measurable impact on educational access throughout the region. Each piece you see tonight represents not just individual artistic achievement, but educational opportunity that creates ripple effects throughout entire families and communities. Elena continued, her voice carrying authority earned through demonstrated results rather than inherited position. These students prove that talent exists everywhere, waiting only for recognition and support to flourish. Roberto Martinez moved through the gallery with quiet pride, observing his daughter's professional success while admiring artwork created by young people whose stories echoed his own family's journey toward educational advancement. His weathered hands touched his best suit jacket as he paused before a particularly moving sculpture created by Maria Santos, an 18-year-old whose parents had immigrated from Guatemala seeking opportunities for their children. This exhibition represents more than student achievement, Elena said, gesturing toward the displayed works. It demonstrates what becomes possible when educational access combines with authentic support for individual talent and determination. Elena spotted Maria Santos standing nervously beside her sculpture, wearing a simple but elegant dress that her mother had altered specially for tonight's celebration. Elena moved toward the young artist with warmth that reflected genuine interest rather than patronizing charity. "Maria, your work is extraordinary," Elena said, studying the bronze piece that incorporated traditional Guatemalan symbols with contemporary American artistic techniques. "The way you have integrated cultural heritage with innovative form creates powerful statement about identity and belonging." Maria's face lit up with pride and gratitude. "Miss Martinez, the scholarship made everything possible. My parents worked 2 jobs each, but they could never afford art school tuition. The foundation changed our entire family's future." Elena felt tears threatening as Maria's words encapsulated exactly the kind of transformation the foundation had been designed to create. Educational opportunity was providing pathway for talent that might otherwise remain hidden due to economic limitations rather than capability restrictions. Marshall approached Elena and Maria with a smile that showed his own emotional response to witnessing foundation impact through individual success stories. "Maria, your sculpture will be featured in our foundation's annual report," Marshall said. Your achievement represents proof that educational investment creates lasting change that extends far beyond individual benefit. Elena watched Marshall's genuine engagement with scholarship recipients, feeling gratitude for his authentic commitment to foundation mission rather than simply philanthropic prestige. His character had attracted her initially, but his consistent demonstration of values that matched her own had deepened her love throughout their months of partnership. As the evening progressed, Elena mingled with guests whose conversations revealed widespread community support for foundation programming and genuine enthusiasm for expanded educational initiatives that could serve additional students seeking advancement through merit and determination. Elena, the foundation's success has exceeded every projection we developed during initial planning, said Catherine Walsh, the foundation's program coordinator. Application numbers are triple our capacity, and donor support continues growing as word spreads about measurable program results. Elena felt satisfaction at Catherine's report, while also recognizing the challenge of expanded demand for services that reflected both program success and ongoing community need for educational access. Success creates wonderful problems, Elena replied thoughtfully. We need to develop sustainable growth strategies that maintain program quality while serving additional students who deserve opportunities. As the exhibition celebration reached its conclusion, Elena found herself standing beside the gallery's large window, looking out at city lights while reflecting on the remarkable journey that had brought her to this moment of professional fulfillment and personal happiness. Marshall joined Elena at the window, slipping his arm around her waist as they observed guests departing with obvious satisfaction at the evening's inspiration and impact. "Elena, what are you thinking about?" Marshall asked gently, recognizing the contemplative expression that often appeared when Elena was processing significant experiences. "I am thinking about how much has changed since that afternoon when you overheard me discussing auction strategies," Elena replied, leaning into Marshall's warmth while watching Roberto help Maria Santos's family load her sculpture carefully into their car. 18 months ago, I was invisible to your world. Tonight, scholarship recipients who might have remained invisible are celebrating their achievements in a gallery that bears my family's name." Marshall held Elena closer, understanding the profound significance of transformation that extended far beyond her individual success to encompass systematic change in educational access for deserving students. "Elena, you were never invisible," Marshall said softly. "I was simply too limited in my perspective to see clearly. Your talent was always there, waiting for appropriate recognition and opportunity." Elena turned in Marshall's arms to face him directly, her expression showing love deepened by shared commitment to work that mattered beyond personal advancement. "Marshall, thank you for seeing my worth when others overlooked me completely," Elena said, her voice filled with gratitude and affection. "But more importantly, thank you for helping me create opportunities for others to be seen and supported when they might otherwise remain hidden." Marshall kissed Elena gently as gallery lights dimmed around them, and their first year of foundation success concluded with promise of expanded impact ahead. Elena Martinez would marry Marshall Croft next month, but tonight belonged to celebrating the educational transformation they had created together through partnership based on mutual respect, shared values, and commitment to recognizing talent wherever it existed. The Martinez Croft Foundation for Educational Excellence had provided platform for Elena's professional growth while creating lasting change in countless lives through programs that honored both individual achievement and community advancement. Elena's journey from gardener's daughter to foundation executive represented authentic success earned through competence, character, and courage to pursue opportunities that aligned with her deepest values about education, family, and service to others, seeking advancement through merit rather than circumstance. The story had come full circle, with Elena now creating opportunities for other young people whose talents deserved recognition regardless of their starting point in life. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Leave a like and comment below what you thought of the story. See you in the next video.